Okay, now this is these drawings here. This drawing here was started just like this. Okay, so this is a Rubens drawing, and the only difference here is he started the drawing this way, and he decided he wanted more of a front view of the figure instead of a back view. So then he went back and he started over, but that began just like this. So what you can see there is a sense of the sort of the freedom of taking and approaching doing the drawing. Okay, now this ends up as being a big painting. Okay, but at this point, so now we look at down below down here. What you're seeing, and I'll ghost this down and do some drawing over it. Okay, what you see is, okay, this is you can think of this like a story sketch for a film or something. Now what you're getting in the background here are the idea is that it was a visitation, somebody coming to a door, somebody opening a door. There's a couple of different segments within the story. But what's important here now is that you look, as we look at this thing, and I'll draw over this now, is that you can see how he's taking, and first of all, the idea is somebody's giving something to somebody. Okay, so as we look at this thing, you can look at the shape now. This shape here is echoed in the shape of what you're seeing right here. So you can see there's sort of a connection there. Okay, now as he's done the drawing, now look at these lines that he's doing. What he's doing is these lines is he's trying to create a way of making the figure going forward, this figure here, and this is a rather rigid figure here, a male figure with a beard, and this gal's coming over. Okay, but the movement, well, the way I look at the drawing now is I think that the one in the center here is probably the last one. But as we progress through the drawing, you can see now how he's leading the eye through the way he's working with the lines. So that figure is going in and actually leaning in. You can see the dropped hand, the shoulder, this one's up. The other figure, we're still holding that same kind of shape idea here. But you can feel now this figure is leaning back. And it's actually sort of leaning out. So there's a real fitness from one thing to the next as it's moving into the thing. So what he's doing, most of his drawing here is trying to make the eye move through the thing. So now, as we go from that, okay, now this is a totally different, this is Utagawa, Japanese artist, late 1700s, I think 1700s. But now let's ghost this down and draw over this a bit. Now, but look now, what you have is a series of lines. Look at what he's doing now. He's feeling, you can feel these lines building up. He's making the eye move. Also, it's sort of instructive here is notice how free the drawing is. This ends up as a very, very polished woodcut. The lines he's taking and making the eye move up. And the figure is leaning to the right and looking to the left. He's really composing this drawing. Now, if we look at the other one, I'm going to ghost this down even some more. You can see this stuff. Okay, now here, start over here in the lower left. You can see just one line leading into the next. Everything is building up. And it has a lot of the same characteristics. So you can feel the arms going up, the figure is leaning back, contained in a very, very, very simple contour on the outside. He's then looking up, and we got these birds moving up. And probably an ad for McDonald's up here. Okay, but all this stuff is moving. At the same time, he's dropping in the background, so it's just a nice play of opposites in the thing. But all the lines are leading your eye. Okay, this next one is also a Utagawa Kuniyoshi. He was very famous for battle scenes. But look at the way he took, and look at the way he's drawn. There's nothing fussy about this drawing. Very free, loose type of thing. What he's doing is just trying to capture the whole thing. But it's very direct. There's nothing fussy about this drawing. And the way they worked in doing these things is, his name went on it, but he would be giving this to an assistant who would take and be taking and dealing with a little bit more of the patterns on the costuming and stuff. And then that would be given to somebody else that would trace it down onto a wood block. And then somebody else would do the carving. And then somebody else. And the publisher would say, well, yeah, okay, you're great on these battle scenes, but your backgrounds don't cut it. Let's have Hokusai do the background. And it was just like it was a production. But his name goes on it because it's that beginning. It's the first inspiration of the whole feeling of the thing. Okay, now this next guy is an Italian, Cortona. Look at the way the drawing is. It's just feeling the line. You look at this thing, it's just going over. You can feel this guy going down. He's stabbing this guy down here, pushing down. We got this guy down here. And behind that, the guy's building up. All of this stuff done. It's totally done, of course, from imagination. You're just feeling the flow and the movement and how everything goes. That's where it begins. Okay. And it's just this free-flowing type thing. The painting in the end, very realistic, very almost photographic. Okay, this next guy is a guy by the name of Barocci. Okay. Now, this is the type of thing, that drawing, that we'd say, okay, this is what I want to do. Now, how much are you going to pay me? Basically. Probably the price was already worked out. Okay. But in doing this thing, now let's look at what actually is going on here. Now, first, what you've got is it's a composition. It's all these figures going in. But it's essentially a play on opposites. So if you're looking at the left-hand side here, for instance, you can see that we've got this real line taking and going. The figures diving back into the picture. This next figure now is taking and actually leaning out towards us. Okay. Then we've got this figure in the foreground here. Let's take and okay. Now, what you see is very simple volume. The figure is going back in, and some of this stuff will become more important as we go through. He's composing it, but everything is organized here now. As this guy leans forward, he's leaning on this rail. He's creating a dropping in space, going back in. And then what you've got is a series of overlapping lights and darks that create depth within the picture. So what we have is going from the light into the dark, into the light. Well, you can see the same thing going through here. Light, dark, light, dark. Now, as that figure is coming forward, he creates all this space behind it. So you've got the space behind it, and you've got this thing coming forward. Then he carries these lines. Notice that this figure on the right-hand side here is going in. Okay. This is taking and coming through, He's taking cast shadows, a dark foreground going in. He uses the cast shadow off of the arm to take and create space. We feel that surface going through. Very, very, very simplified forms. All of this is going here. This guy's leaning back on the right. The next figure is leaning in. It's formula. Very, very, very organized as we go back into the picture. Okay, now, this next one is also Barocci. But here you can see how he was taking and now researching to take and deal with the parts. So the drawing was built up through a series of building. Now, it's very easy to look at it. Wow, he knows all that. If you look at this now, if we take this baby here, you can see, and it's useful to look and draw from these guys to see that as fancy as it looks, it's not always that right. If you look at this baby here, okay, whoop. This baby had a hip with elephantitis. Look at that rear end. Really off. Okay, but he was trying to feel the pose and the thing. The drawing right next to it, this drawing here, was the figure that we saw in the other composition on the left-hand side. And then he takes and comes through. Well, he never really fixed that hip very well. It's still got some kind of way up out of here. But these are really very, very simple volumes that he's taking and building into the thing. And so you really learn a lot by just looking at how these guys take and work. Now, let's take and see some other examples here now. Oops. Okay, this is Clement Cole. Clement Cole was a really good illustrator. Fantastic work with pen. And now when you look at this stuff, the first impression when you look at a lot of his stuff is how the freedom that he was taking and doing this stuff with. In other words, you look at this, and okay, now you try to imagine the beginning drawing for this. How does it work? It's just the opposite what you think. You'd think this would be a rough, loose drawing to start with. There may have been one someplace along the line. Now, the difference here is, and this is important to see, because here you can see that, and you can see these drawings. Okay, what he's doing here, different than when we talk about Barocci or Michelangelo or what have you. Here, he is actually manufacturing a style. He's working very hard to take and have a certain specific look to the drawing. Now that's different. The other guys we were looking at were drawing because that wasn't the finished stuff. That's just the way they work, the way they do things. Here, he's trying to say, I want to take and have this look to the drawing. This isn't a criticism, I'm just making a difference here now. Okay, so that's part. So if we look at, okay, now this is a woman artist by the name of Isabel Bishop. She did lots of drawings of working women in the New York City, down in Greenwich Village, people sitting at lunch counters and drawing and stuff. So you can see that this was a very free type of drawing. Some of the drawings take on the character of, well, that's just one of my notes. We don't need that. Okay, now this drawing, these are drawings. This is a series of drawings on the computer. Now these I did at a CTN Expo last year in Burbank. We're going to have another one in November. Okay. Now this is, of course, drawn without a model. Here I was just talking about, and these are some of the basic steps we're going to go through. Building the figure. Okay, here. Same thing.
Go to the first one.
Hmm?
Go to the first one of that. Yeah.
Step-by-step process that we go through in doing the drawing. And whether it's cartooning or doing realism or whatever it is. Let me go back. I actually skipped some stuff here. I gotta get rid of this up here. Okay, this is a Heinrich Kley. But these really free type of drawings. Okay, this is Daumier. Now, if you look at the thing, okay, well, he spent a lot of time in jail because he was making fun of the judges and kings and stuff. Okay, so what he did, if you take a look at this thing now, what it is think of the story. These are separate drawings. That's a separate drawing. That's a separate drawing. This was the beginning. So you've got the attorneys taking and grabbing his stuff. The judges are walking out, and the poor victim passed out. Okay. Now, so you can see where he came down here and he started thinking. So he changed it. He said, okay, coming across here. These are where the jury's at. So he's taken and he redid the drawing up here. So he's got the guy going all the same thing, the guy passes out. Now he's got the judges working out to the right, and they got obviously he's getting crucified, okay? But this is the whole storytelling. So it's beautiful storytelling. This is just getting the story out. But the way he's drawn the thing. Okay, let's look at another Daumier here. This again. You guys know, are you familiar with Daumier at all? Yeah. You're not. You should be. He's very famous for his political cartoons. And you see lots of that stuff's very popular. Actually, at the, not the Norton Simon, but there's a museum on Wilshire Boulevard in Westwood. What's it called? Huh?
Hammer Museum.
Hammer. Okay. What Daumier would do, he would carry these lumps of clay in his pocket. And he would take and mold these heads. And then he would actually draw from them. And then he would anyway, in the museum there, they have a big cabinet full of these heads that he modeled. They're absolutely marvelous. But he would take and do these things. And most people, he painted also, today we know a lot of his paintings, but during his lifetime, nobody really knew that he painted. In his later years, I think he was going blind, and the artist Millet sort of put him up and took care of him in a farm, gave him a place. But he spent a lot of time in jail. Okay, this is a very famous drawing. Don Quixote. But the economy of the way he's done the drawing, and this is in the sense that this is the essence of the type of thing that we're trying to do. You're trying to capture the feeling of what it is. We can take and look at, let's see, this is Pontormo. Pontormo is really one of the major guys. He's a close friend of Michelangelo's. In Florence, when they took and restarted the Academy in Florence, not the Florence Academy that we know today, but Vasari actually got the thing instigated. It was dedicated to him. His real name was Jacopo Carucci, but a marvelous artist. And some of the most beautiful paintings in Florence are, every time I go there, I take and go pay homage. Okay, okay, this is another Pontormo. But here, see, here you're looking at now how this drawing is only that big. Tiny drawing. But the way he's taking and just trying to compose, so this is the beginning stages now. This is the way the guys work. Okay? So you're building these drawings. So, and all of this stuff is done for imagination. So this is where we want to be going. So putting down ideas. Okay, so now that you know where I'm coming from with this stuff, okay, what we're going to do now is I want you to take and sit down and start drawing for imagination.